In the previous episode, we saw how the king escapes from the dungeon. This time, we'll have a look at how many ideas can be applied into this specific position, what kind of traps we need to set or avoid, and how complex the process of converting the advantage may be. Take notice, I'm going to show you so many amazing and crazy lines in order to express the chess beauty and mesmerize your chess mind. You have been warned. Fasten your chest belts, guys, and let's get into it. Now, at this moment, as probably you remember, we have the position with the pawn going into the promotion, and the only idea for black is to make the checkmate going with the rook, either into f, g, or h1. After rook g1, take notice we are throwing the check right here, but take notice we are not into the diagonal. After the pawn is promoted into the queen, the rook will not be captured. And that's why at this moment, there are two ways of winning. Either king c8, either king e8. And now the simplest way is to go king e8. And now why is that? Let's check it out. First of all, the idea of promotion. Second of all, even if the rook throws the check, the SPC, self-promo construction, is guaranteeing us the opportunity not to destroy it. After the king step back right here, again, we cannot make the move into the promotion, because promotion leads up to the beautiful checkmate. Therefore, we cannot make such a blunder, but we are going right there. Throwing the check, take notice, previously the king was way closer. Therefore, at this moment, black will be having a little bit more trouble. After the king step back, we are just making the rook the same idea as previously, and now we'll be promoting the pawn soon. After throwing the check, king step back. After rook blocking the check, we are going closer, promotion, we are going closer and closer with the king, now threatening the rook to be captured. After rook stepping back, we are just promoting, winning easily. Therefore, at this moment, you need to know this mechanism, these ideas to implement. And now I would like to show you something more, because this position gets a way more secrets that I would like to reveal for you. Now, at this moment, as we just mentioned, we are playing king e8. We are going onto the right side. Of course, take notice that we could go into the promotion, but it's going to be the game over immediately due to the checkmate. But there is another way to win this position. What is this way? Instead of getting king e8, we can throw the check onto the 6th rank with the rook. And now, after the king gets here, again, we are reaching the position. There are 4 moves to win. All of the moves highlighted red are winning. We just analyzed the move rook c6 check, you know how it is done already, but let's have a look what would happen if white didn't know that these 4 moves are winning. If I played, for example, rook a6, it seems like the idea is the same. We can step back right here and promote the pawn, isn't it? Not quite. It is a draw right now because white loses the pawn, or they are forced to get the perpetual check. Now, after throwing the check, it seems like everything is fine, right? Now, there are 3 ways to go. On the 7th rank by the king. After the king gets into the e7, we are getting the rook into the corner, and due to the king attacking the rook in one move, then getting the contact with the second move and capture, and the white king being too far away, it guarantees a pretty easy draw. Take notice that this position gets a little bit more tricky if you know some of the secrets. For example, as we just said, after king e7, it's a simple draw. What happens if they get into king c7? Now, throwing the check, and again, the king must go into one of the squares, this time on the 8th rank. Now, the king step back, we are throwing the check. And what's important? The king cannot hide. The king must go into one of the 2 squares on the 7th rank this time. After the king step back, we are throwing the check. And now, if the king will be going back and forth over these squares highlighted blue and red, we are be going with the rooks, harassing the king on the 7th and 8th ranks. Therefore, very powerful idea to remember, because there are some ideas with the perpetual check or the harassment by the rook, very powerful one to be applied in the rook endgames. Now, after the king step back, we are throwing the check, and now the king d7. And now it seems like that after the king d7, we can make the same idea as previously, right? The rook in the corner, then the king attacking the rook, going closer and capture, isn't it? No, we cannot, because at this moment we need to throw the check first, and now again, the king has this time 4 moves. The king can get into the square e6 on the 6th rank or one of the squares on the 8th rank. After the king gets into the 8th rank, check here. After that, the king is attacking the rook. Therefore, rook gets into the corner. After that, we are attacking the rook, attacking the pawn twice and capture as the king is too far away. And now what happens at this moment? As probably you can see, pretty easy draw. We are exchanging the rooks, game over. But there is one interesting idea that I would like to show you when white can set up a little bit of trap. After this one, we analyzed king e7, king c7, but let's have a look right now into the king d7. King d7 is a very nice and subtle trap. Why? Because now it seems like that we can go with the rook right here, but reality, rook g7 is the only one. After rook g7, the king step back, rook check, the king step back, and the same idea as we just mentioned previously, right? Take notice, after this one, the king cannot get to the 6th rank, because if it went to the 6th rank, we are making the x-ray, and we are just winning the game, because the king cannot protect the pawn and cover the promoting square. The next move, we are grabbing the pawn, winning the game. And now, at this moment, as you can see, with king d7, we need to make the rook g7. If we didn't, if we immediately get into the corner, what is the mistake that doesn't allow us for the draw? We are getting right here. The king doesn't allow our king to get closer with this idea. And that's why, at this moment, white is winning. After this king attacking the rook, we are counter-attacking. After the check, we recapture. After the check, we recapture with the pawn promoting. And therefore, at this moment, next move will be the pawn promotion, game over. After pawn promotion, even if they throw the checks, take notice, both pieces are protecting each other, what is super important. And now we are going with the flying leaves idea, F-L-Y, flying leaf idea. And now at this moment, as you can see, after the capture, we are winning. Therefore, be careful, because this one is pretty crazy stuff. Of course, it's just the tip of the iceberg. And now one more time. At this moment, rook a6 is this idea that doesn't help. And now let's have a look what would happen if this would be the rook c6 check. I would like to show one funny stuff for the end of this episode. After the king b5, it seems like that you can just promote the pawn, right? But if you promote it, the rook gets into the last rank, grabs the pawn due to the skewer. Therefore, you can say, wait a second, I'll just have this pawn covered by the rook, and after capturing twice, the king will not be able to capture, right? Yes, you are correct. And now again, if you get into one of the squares highlighted red, the rook makes the skewer, and with the x-ray wins the pawn, and game ends in a draw. Therefore, we must go with the king to c7. Now, again, the check, the king step back, and now the threat is pretty simple, the pawn promotes to queen. And now, after the king gets closer, if you just exchange, of course, this would be the main idea, but if the king gets closer, if you promote to the queen, you have this square covered. This is the main idea. But if you would like to make a little bit of flex with the queen off promotion, if you promote to the rook, look about this. I'm leaving the building, right? And that's why I just show you, it's pretty crazy, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I hope so, now you can see how many beautiful ideas are there. It's such a simple position. Of course, simple if you know what's going on. And now the position that we have the same one as we previously have seen, but this time, as we can see, we do not have the rook h1, rook h8 checkmate, rook g1, rook g8 checkmate, but the last resort, rook f1, f8. And you may ask, why not rook e1, e8? Because it's not a checkmate. Therefore, we just extract this one up to only one rook f1. Because rook h1, h8 checkmate, g1, g8 checkmate, f1, f8 checkmate, but e1, e8 is not checkmate because the king is going to capture the rook. That's why the last resort, rook f1. And now take notice that analysis is pretty much very similar, but there is one important difference. And this difference helps us tremendously. Take notice, at this moment, the king gets a little bit into the stepping back from the opposition. Otherwise, if you just promote the pawn up to the queen, of course, it is the checkmate, as you already know many times. And now after the king here, now we are making the threat of promotion, therefore black needs to harass the king. After throwing the check, now we have 3 ways to go. Either into the back rank, either to the f7 square. What would happen if we get into f7? It seems like that it's pretty simple because we are using the flying leaf idea, right? FLY. Take notice, be very, very careful. After throwing the check onto the 7th, the pawn is not protected and next move is going to be captured, resulting in a draw. Therefore, be careful. Yes, we need to step back, but we need to be careful. We are going into the f8. Because now, again, the threat of promotion, and now after rook check, we are using the flying leaf idea. We are getting into the first rank, harassing the rook, and not to allow the rook to harass our king, and step by step we are going down, and now black cannot do anything except sacrificing the rook for the new promoted pawn, and we are just winning the game. Therefore, be careful about this one, but this is pretty simple if the opponent doesn't get into the rook h1 or rook g1, but if they get into the rook f1 with the f8 checkmate idea. Therefore, a little bit of difference, but for us it helps us tremendously to make a way easier defense. Now, another stuff. At this moment, we are just have a look at the position that I show you, that there are 4 moves to be played. At this moment, rook check on c6 is the key one with the idea of capturing and then promoting and making the skewer. But what happens if we just use the other one? Now let's have a look, rook b1. Now, after rook b1, the first idea to see is to capture. After the capture, we are just promoting into the queen. There are no x-rays, there are no other type of stuffs like skewers and so on. Therefore, at this moment, it is checkmate in 25. Of course, this is the fight queen and king against king and rook that must be learned separately. And now, at this moment, if the rook doesn't capture, the threat is the following. We can promote, but take notice that they can go right here with the x-ray. At the same time, we are attacking the rook. Therefore, at this moment, they need to stop the promotion and stop losing the rook threat idea. After throwing the check, again, at this moment, white has 3 moves to go. They can get into any squares on the 7th rank. What happens if they get into one of these squares highlighted red, the squares e7 and d7? Of course, you probably can spot immediately, the rook throws the check from the 7th rank, capturing the pawn next move, and the game ends in a draw. That's why we are going into the c7. And now again, at this moment, the kings are in the opposition, therefore the black king cannot get any closer. After throwing the check, again, if the king gets into the highlighted squares on the back rank, the rook captures the pawn, the game ends in a draw. Therefore, a pretty forced variations. And now at this moment, we are threatening to make the queen. Therefore, the only way to stop it or to delay it is to throwing the check. Now again, if the king gets into c7, we are throwing the checks onto the 7th and 8th ranks, resulting in a draw. Of course, white is interested in winning the position. Now again, we are making the threat of promotion, and now we are throwing the check. And now at this moment, if we get into the square c8, of course the pawn is lost due to the x-ray, that's why we need to get the other way. And now this is the only attempt to win this position. If we get into the square a8, b8, it's the repetition, c8 we are losing the pawn, and the square a6 is the only way to make the position winning. And now what's going on? Of course, the threat of the promotion. Now, if they throw the checks on the 6th rank, trying to harass our king, we are stepping back. And now, remember, if the kings are in the opposition, always think about the ideas for the defending side to deliver the checkmate. I'm not drawing the moves, I'm drawing the ideas. And now, after rook going here, we cannot promote the pawn, because after the promotion, we will be capturing, rook will be capturing the pawn, and we will be checkmated. And that's why we are having the SPC. Remember? Self-promo construction. Super powerful idea that is not so many times expressed clearly in the chess literature, and that's why I'm just getting a little bit of updating this stuff. And now, at this moment, the rook stepped the other way. They are trying to get the checkmate with the lower board. And now, after we promote the pawn into the queen, being happy that we finally make the task of promotion, we are being checkmated. That's why, be careful, play up to the bitter end. And now, at this moment, what can we do? The simplest idea is to throw the king from the c file, not to allow the king into the opposition, because then the checkmate would not be possible. And of course, black king has 3 squares to go. No matter where they go, they are just be careful, because if they get into the square, into the diagonal, we of course make the promotion up to the queen, and next move we are just grabbing the rook, resulting in a pretty easy win. And that's why they cannot get into the square onto the diagonal, the d5 square. They need to go into one of the squares on the d file, d4 or d6. If they get into d4, we are just making the promotion, and now take notice, the king will be able to escape very easily. Therefore, after throwing the check, the game is pretty easy over. And now the next position. Previously, we have seen the ideas of the rook c6 as the idea of making the x-ray. Now, we just have a look what happens after rook b2. And now we need to have rook b1, rook b2, and rook b3. Rook b3 will not be shown because it is the same idea as rook b2. And now let's have a look and investigate rook b2. After rook b2, now we have the same idea as previously. We are trying to bring the king closer, and after that, the pawn will be promoted. And now, of course, if we can bring this idea and rook into the self-promo construction, we are winning. And that's why black is attacking the pawn and covering the promoting square immediately. And now the only move that makes the position winning is, of course, rook b7. Why? Because you cannot protect the pawn with the king, and now after the rook captures the pawn, the game ends in a draw. That's why rook b7. You may wonder why I just gave 2 exclamation points. It's not about the move, it's about the idea, or rather say, the complexity of ideas. To be honest, I have never seen such a crazy ideas in one position with rook and pawn against the rook. Of course, I analyzed a lot of positions, rook and pawn versus rook, but this one is the craziest I have ever seen. Now, after the king c6, attacking the rook, you cannot step back from the b file because rook is going to capture the pawn. You can either step back into the 7th rank, either get with the king. Of course, if you step back to the 7th rank, the king gets b6, rook b7, and you cannot protect the pawn with the king, therefore it ends in a draw. That's why, again, the only move to stay the position, winning. Now, the rook gets into the idea, as I just mentioned. If the kings are in the opposition, the king stays on the 6th, the opponent's king stays on the 8th, always consider the last resort of the checkmate idea. Sounds simple, but it's powerful. Now, at this moment, rook check. Of course, the king can get into one of the squares on the b or d files, because take notice, we cannot make the promotion, because another beautiful checkmate. Let me know how many times you can see the checkmate rook and pawn versus rook, while the stronger side has the queen and the rook and is being checkmated. Probably not that often, right? And now at this moment, rook c7 check. Now, the king gets b6, because now the idea being, if you throw the check, the king step back, we can just go with the rook here and capture, because after the recapture, we are simply winning, right? Sorry, we are drawing. Of course, after this one here, we can go check and capture, but the problem would be that we cannot capture the queen after this one. But at least it would be a draw. Now, rook check again. And now we can say, wait a second, they can go back and forth, isn't it? Yes. After going here, they will be going back and forth, if not one of the ideas. Check here, check here. You can say, okay, it is the repetition, white cannot improve the position, white cannot win, isn't it? Not quite. At this moment, another thunder from the blow. Rook g7. The only move that makes this position winning. Of course, we are going to make a repetition, but it's not the idea, it's just repetition. And now at this moment, the simple idea is to capture, take notice, the threat of checkmate, but the queen is getting faster, and now at this moment checkmate is unavoidable in the next 24 moves. Again, king and queen versus king and rook, that must be learned separately. And now what's going on? After rook g7, again, we are threatening to capture the rook, and we are just trying to make the pawn promotion, take notice, with check. That's why if the rook gets into a1, the check would be here, but the rook will be capturing the new promoted queen, resulting in a checkmate. Pretty hilarious, isn't it? Therefore, at this moment, let's have a look. After the check and double attack, We are just capturing the new queen, and we are just checkmating the king. Sounds pretty crazy, especially in the faster time control. But let's get into the position. Now we need to throw the king off from the 6th rank, not to allow the king to get any closer, especially to the main ideas that we discussed previously. And at this moment, we are having the winning position. And how to win it? The first attempt is to get with the king b7. After throwing the check, we can go 1, 2, 3, or 4, let's say, squares. If we are going here, the rook is attacking the pawn again, and now there are 3 winning moves. Either king b7, either king b8, or rook g5 check. And now let's have a look king b7. It seems pretty simple, because the king is protecting the pawn and having the promoting square covered, right? After rook check, we are stepping back into the corner deliberately, because the king cannot improve the position, because it is cut off on the 6th rank. Take notice, if the king would be standing into the c7, c8 square, as in the previous stuff that we just analyzed, it would be an easy draw, right? And now, the rook is just cutting off the king cannot get any closer, therefore we are just waiting. Now the rook gets here. Now, if the rook gets with the SPC, self-promo construction, the king would not be staying into c7, c8, cutting off the king, the position will be winning. And that's why, even though the king is pretty close, it seems like it's winning, it seems like it's a draw, white has the winning move. Very important stuff. Rook c8 check. And you can say, wait a second, rook c8 check? You said that you are going to make the self-promo construction, isn't it? Yes, but we need to be very careful, because after rook c8 check, now the black king cannot get into the b file, because after getting b file, we either win the rook, either exchange the rook, depending where the king goes. Therefore, it would be an easy win. That's why the king needs to go into one of the squares on the d file. And now, if the king is pretty far away, not allowing our king to, let's say, escape, then we are going rook here, counter-attacking, and if the king is not into any of these squares, c6, c7, or c8, then the position is winning. Of course, at this moment, we analyzed this position already. There is no point of analyzing any further, and that's why you see it how it is done. And now the last position. And now, as you can see probably, this is the position that we already analyzed, previous position. Now, we have 3 winning moves, either king b7, king b8, or throwing the check on the 5th rank, attacking the king, and pushing it back. And now, let's have a look at the last one on the 5th rank. After throwing the check, the king needs to step back. Now, king b8, with the idea of promotion, take notice, at this moment, the king is cut off on the 5th rank. It cannot get into the 5th rank. Therefore, at this moment, it's even down the board. And now, at this moment, after throwing the check, the king gets into a8 with the idea right here. And if we just reach it, if the king will not be in any of these squares harassing, not allowing our king to escape, it's going to be the win. Of course, black is trying to hold on. After that, we are just going into the SPC, self-promo construction, and if the king is not into any of these squares, c6, c7, c8, of course, I mean the defending king, the position is winning. I would like to point out one important point. Now, at this moment, after the rook b2, we can have another idea. We can try to get rook f1 with the idea of harassing the king, for example, right? And that's why let's have a look at the last resource. After rook f2, rook b2, we have already know, but rook f1 was not analyzed as yet. And now at this moment, we are going rook g8 with the idea of stepping back the king and promoting. Now, after rook cutting off, we are getting again SPC, self-promo construction. The defending king is not into one of these squares, not to allow the king to escape, therefore the position is winning. Of course, at this moment, if the rook gets into the 7th rank, not allowing the king to escape, the king can escape into the back rank. And now the next move is the promotion, and we cannot do anything after the exchange of the rook for the pawn. We are having the winning position. And therefore, this is all of the craziness of these positions. I hope you enjoyed that, because I just have a look with the table bases, all of these, let's say, ideas, and I was stunned That such a simple position that is very important with the king is in the corner getting outside of the dungeon can be that much beautiful and rich with the ideas. I hope you enjoyed this analysis too. Remember, review the positions, analyze them and test them out because they can seem easy if you just watch it. If you practice them, they will be the second nature of yours. In this episode, we learned the following: how to escape from the dungeon, how to build self-promo construction, how to escape with the falling leaf idea, and when the rook sack is necessary to push back and decoy the king, in order to promote the pawn. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching and see ya next time.